There have been a lot of worrying reports recently that Indian green card holders are being pulled aside or stopped at immigration counters at airports when they're re-entering the United States. Specifically, reports in the Times of India have talked about senior citizen Indian green card holders or elderly Indians who hold green cards re-entering the country after spending winter months in India have been pulled aside and in some cases asked to surrender their green cards. What is really going on, and are the green cards at risk? That's the question we're going to attempt to answer in this video. But remember to like, share, subscribe, share this video with anyone you think will find the information useful, and of course sign up for our membership if you can. Quickly, before we get started, what is a green card? Now, a green card allows a person to live and work in the United States and also start the process of becoming a naturalized US citizen. The card makes the holder a permanent resident of the United States and are entitled to many of the same benefits as a citizen, but not all. And once a year, the United States government issues, I think every year, about 1 million green cards. Now, just as I mentioned, in 2024, there were about 12.8 million green card holders living in the US, of which 8.7 million were eligible to become citizens. And the permanent resident status is normally given to people who already have a green card or are relatives of US citizens or are workers in the US on employment visas. Now, let's look at the Indian cohort. The Indian cohort is the second largest group of immigrants in the US after Mexicans. There are 49,700 Indians naturalized, amounting to about 6.1% of new citizens. And naturalization is a process by which someone who's not born in the US can become a US citizen. It involves obviously holding that green card for a while and demonstrating proficiency in English, answering an exam about US history and government, attending an interview, and finally taking an oath of allegiance. Now, naturalized citizens enjoy all of the same privileges as native born citizens. What's happening right now? So we've got various reports now telling us that Indian green card holders, specifically elderly individuals who spend their winters in India, are facing increased scrutiny at airports when they're re-entering the country. Now, reports indicate that US Customs and Border Protection officers have been pressuring them to sign a specific form called a 1407 to voluntarily surrender their permanent residency. Now, the elderly Indians who have tried to push back have been met with threats of detention or removal or deportation by some officers. Now, the Times of India quotes Ashwin Sharma, a Florida-based immigration attorney. He says he's handled several cases of elderly Indian green card holders who were met with expulsion threats. And this is what he's told the TOI, and I'm quoting. He says, "I've personally handled cases where the CBP has targeted Indian green card holders, particularly grandparents who happen to have spent a bit longer outside the US, and pressured them to sign the form to voluntarily surrender their green cards." He said, and the moment they've tried to push back, they've been met with threats of detention and removal. And officers who have been emboldened by the new sort of stance on immigration say that, okay, this is what we're going to do. Another immigration attorney in Seattle has said green cards cannot be revoked unless the holder voluntarily surrenders it. So, Kripa Upadhyay has urged individuals not to sign that form under duress or pressure. She explained that a green card holder, if they've spent more than 365 days outside the US, they will have been deemed to have abandoned their status in residence. And even this is the allegation, green card holder has a right to challenge this in court. But if they lose this right, then they have to voluntarily surrender the card at the airport. Now, Snehal Batra, who is a managing attorney at NPZ Law, has advised green card holders to refuse to sign that form at American airports. She has further said that only an immigration judge has the authority to revoke your card. So don't allow the officer at the airport to pressure you and say that this is possible. And said basically, so effectively, there are a lot of senior citizens whose children are now US citizens. So they they have green cards, they spend a lot of time in the US, but they come back to India to spend the winter months here because the winter tends to be too cold for them, and also they can keep touching base. Now, She has just said that those who spend winter months in India can produce documents like ownership of property, tax returns, employment to maintain that they have not abandoned the country of residence. Now, one immigration officer called Jessie Bless has told the Times of India that lawful permanent residents who are outside the US for more than a year are getting a notice to reappear in removal proceedings. So let's take a look at the rules as per the US. Now, can a green card be revoked? Now, a US law allows for a green card to be revoked under certain conditions, like the failure to comply with immigration regulations or being accused of criminal activity. Now, mostly Indian senior citizens don't do that. The framework places green card holders in a very vulnerable position, though, where national security concerns can override their residency status. The rights of green card holders might seem simple, but they are not. They're fairly complex, involves obligations. You have to obey the laws, you have to file your taxes, you have on your technically all of the First Amendment rights of citizens, but there are conditions and responsibilities. Now, like I said, you have to obey the law, you're required to file income tax and report all of your income. You're expected to support democratic form of government, and that is subject maybe in some places to interpretation. And you're required to, if you are a male age 18 through 25, then you're required to register with the Selective Service. So, what is happening right now? What can green card holders do? Under the Immigration and Nationality Act, or the INA, green card holders living abroad for more than 180 days are considered to be seeking readmission and can face inadmissibility upon their return. Now, while the risk of abandonment applies to those who have spent a year outside, even shorter winter stays in India right now are being scrutinized. However, this is not the first time this has happened. Apparently, in the previous term of Donald Trump, this had happened. Officials went as far as to distribute the form, the 1407, on aircrafts, telling passengers to relinquish their green cards in the flight altogether. The Times of India has also quoted Greg Siskin, who is an immigration lawyer, who says that in the previous administration, sky marshals were passing out those forms on planes asking people to surrender their green cards. But he has said people need not surrender their cards, they must be. But if you don't want to surrender your card, be prepared to sit and answer questions, go through the secondary inspection. If it's possible, if someone asks for you to be detained overnight, then do that as well, he says. But a person is entitled to a hearing in front of the judge, and this particular lawyer, Greg Siskin, says that judges will not be happy when these cases come up in front of them. So in many cases, the officer in question will sort of cave in. If you stand your ground and say, I don't mind, I'll wait overnight to see a judge, it's likely that that might not be the case. Now, where is all of this coming from? On the 4th of March, the Vice President of the US, J.D. Vance, made a statement in an interview when he was talking to, he was talking to one of the television channels. He said green card holders do not have an indefinite right to be in the country. He brought to attention the distinction between permanent residency and citizenship and emphasized that permanent residency is not an absolute guarantee of an indefinite stay. He actually said that if the Secretary of State, which is their version of a foreign minister, if the Secretary of State and the President decides that this person should not be in America, they have no legal right to stay here, and it is as simple as that. And this is the Vice President who's made this statement. Now, I want to remind you, at the same time, the US has just recently launched a citizenship for money program under Trump called the Gold Card, or the Golden Visa, where they're selling citizenship for $5 million per card. And on the 24th of March, US Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick had said that they'd sold 1,000 of those cards, and it's doing really, really well. So actually, if you look at it on the table right now, could America actually be saying that if you have $5 million and you want to contribute to our economy, then you're welcome, or if you have a job and you're earning, then you're welcome. But if you are a retired person and you're not going to actively contribute to the economy, then maybe we're going to put you through some uncomfortable scrutiny. Is that what we are reading from all of this? Looking at some more of those laws, there is in interpretation now growing uncertainty for the Indian community that's currently living in the US. Legal experts are advising visa holders, including H-1B employees and students on the F-1, which is the student visa, to cautiously think about all of their travel overseas and sort of be a little more, careful about your plans. Lawyers for immigration are telling travelers departing the US for employment-related trips or visa renewals to be a little more careful about where they're going, which country they're stamping on their passports, and how quickly they're going to re-enter. A lot of applications are getting stuck right now because of the new administrative rules. Remember, the US State Department has recently changed the rules for visa interviews and Dropbox applications, and that has created a backlog for issuance of new visas. So effectively, a non-immigrant visa without an interview, if the visa it used to be, if the visa expired about 48 months ago, you could basically do a Dropbox and just get your visa reissued without an interview. That has changed. Now the eligibility is 12 months. So as a result, more and more candidates have to go in person for visa interviews, and that has created a backlog and it's made the procedure a lot more complex. The policy change will impact those switching from F1, which is the student visa, to the H1B work visa as well, because they actually go into that backlog. This is also the time of year when student visas are being applied for. Remember, Indians are along with China, the largest cohort of people applying for student visas for US colleges. So all of those applications will go in now as well. Now, according to immigration experts, even applicants who have previously had visa approvals may be subject to administrative procedures, and this could cause a massive delay. One immigration attorney called Latoya McBean told CNN that the main problem she observes is with her green card clients are growing anxiety. She said they've never been afraid before, but today they are afraid because it's becoming difficult for them to plan anything, to make plans of buying property, investing, putting roots down, if you don't really know how the country that you're living in is viewing your presence or your partnership in that country. According to immigration attorney David Leopold in the Hindustan Times, he says green card holders are frequently deported if they are charged with or found guilty of specific offences. He says that he has given counsel to clients on their particular situation, and they're talking about the fact that the new Trump term has caused a lot of nervousness among green card holders across the board, but specifically Indians also finding themselves a little bit more nervous about the plans of staying on in the US. So if you happen to be in the US right now watching this video, leave me a comment in the comment section and tell me what your experience is and the experience of the rest of the Indian community that you're in touch with, if you are at all. If you're American, I'd love to hear what you think about this as well. Let us know what people are going through and how you're feeling, and if you believe that this is a fair thing for the government of the US to be doing.